you. Our next speaker is Mr. Abhishek Ramesh, Executive Director, Kerali Ayurvedic Group. Mr. Ramesh graduated as an engineer in New York before taking the role of director. With his brother, he forms Kerali's other international face as director of the products division. His energy and business acumen have led to a highly successful online products and distribution enterprise, as well as successful international franchise scheme. May I invite him to come forward and share his thoughts on globalization, politics, and policies, and its impacts on brands and branding.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. I have a few cue cards to assist me during this presentation. I've got a very bureaucratic level and intellectual level subject, and with my limited exposure, the way I wanted to approach this was share some of our experiences in the field of Ayurveda and take Ayurveda as a brand and put it out there. And through that, maybe get a few key takeaways which could be applicable to your industries as well as businesses. But before we venture into the subject, and to understand the stories that I'd like to share, we need to understand what the brand of Ayurveda is. So for those who are not from India, I'd just like to explain what Ayurveda actually is. Ayurveda in Sanskrit literally means science of life. It's a 5,000-year-old subject which is considered a comprehensive medical system. It has every branch that modern medicine has today, including surgery. The key ingredients in Ayurveda is herbal in nature. So anything that is available in nature is used in this subject. And in Ayurveda, it is considered that for every ailment that is out there, there is a resource in nature which can cure it. One of the key differentiators of Ayurveda and modern medicine is that Ayurveda doesn't have any side effects. So this is one of the major reasons for appreciation of this brand. To give you an idea of what the key verticals in the brand are, the first one would be Ayurvedic products. This in itself is a billion-dollar industry, and it's one of the fastest growing verticals of the brand. For the last 50 years, many government and semi-government institutions has been manufacturing Ayurvedic products, which are derived from Vedic and ancient Indian texts, and have been supplying it all across the world. The second vertical in the industry is Ayurvedic treatment. If you can see in the presentation, there's a lady over there getting Shirodhara treatment. Unlike what Mr. Kakkar said earlier, you don't need to go to Thailand for eternal bliss. You can try one of these treatments and it will still rejuvenate you. This So, unlike that, you won't get that in this brand, but it would still give you a pleasurable service. Let me put it that way. So this is one of the reasons this brand is getting its reputation today. Ayurveda has a proven track record for treating arthritis, psoriasis, and leading ailments that are out there. Back pain, ortho-related issues is one of the treatments that Ayurveda offers. This vertical is growing 30% year on year on a global level. The third vertical is Ayurvedic education. In India, we have over 280 Ayurvedic colleges. It's graduating 18,000 doctors on an annual basis. To give you an estimation, almost 40% of the Indian subcontinent is availing Ayurvedic-based products, treatment, or services, and millions across the world are also using it. To give you an idea where we stand in terms of all of this, Kerali as an organization has cumulatively 10 decades of experience. It's a family-run business with 35 outlets across the world and 2 inpatient facilities in India, primarily being in Kerala and Rishikesh. With that, we are servicing over 20,000 patients annually and performing over 100,000 Ayurvedic services annually. We also manufacture over 150 Ayurvedic products, and from that, 35 of them are proprietary in nature, and the rest are derived from ancient Vedic texts. By year 2018, we are hoping to have approximately 35 medical outpatient facilities and add 2 more inpatient facilities. So this subject was an interest to me because globalization, policy, and politics would make a key impact for this brand. So to address that, I would want to start with the first subject of policy. This is exciting times for the brand because for the first time, we now have a union cabinet minister representing Ayurveda and yoga. This is not just positive for the brand, but for the nation. It is showing that the government is interested in promoting Indian subjects as well as Indian brands on an international level. Through this, we have seen a direct impact of a budget being declared of $200 million for promotion of the brand. Even though the previous governments made various steps, such as creating a department called Ayush, which represents different Indian sciences such as yoga, Unani, Siddha, homeopathy, as well as Ayurveda, they didn't have a clear policy. This created policy stagnation, and we weren't able to attract key foreign investments as well as direct within the country investments into the subject. Now, with the former Union Health Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan stating, and I quote, "We are also looking forward to the National Health Policy, which is to have primary emphasis on the principles of Ayurveda, and this subject is going to enter all allopathic-centric hospitals such as AIIMS and other private institutions and will have to accommodate it." A statement like that seems to promote traditional form of treatment and make it an integral part of Indian overall system of health. This has given a direct impact onto the brand. It's now in the news lately that 18 new Ayurvedic medical colleges are going to open up in India. But on a different note, when we have such positive policies happening in India, Ayurveda has faced some tough policies internationally also. I'm sure you would have also faced some kind of policies like these in your respective industries. France gave a blanket ban on Ayurveda in 2010, basically meaning anything that had the word Ayurveda listed on its packaging or literature was not allowed into the country. What do we do in a situation like this? We as an organization put out a roadmap, identified other EU countries where they had a clear guideline on herbal medication. So we entered Poland, now part of EU, had a clear guidelines of herbal medication, let us register the products, took us over 6 months to do it, lets us put the word Ayurveda on the packaging, and we can still supply to other European nations. We have now used this as a policy to enter any new market. We call it going after the low-lying fruit. So we research countries and nations that the policy allows us as herbal manufacturers or as Ayurveda to enter that country. And we see that CIS countries as well as SAARC nations are very respective and they like herbal medication. On a different note, we have also seen an exception. A country like Japan, having a great understanding for natural remedies, but still having a tough and regulated market. They didn't have much information about the subject of Ayurveda, but appreciated it. They took out the time to understand the subject. I would attribute some of this to our positive policy between the two nations, which we have developed over the years. And today, we are dealing with them on a very positive note. As an organization, 10% of our product-based revenue is coming out of Japan now. We are also seeing a gradual shift in the world market in terms of policy towards this brand. New Mexico, a state in USA, has allowed this brand to be used as a medical science. So there are still 49 states out there that doesn't recognize this as a subject at all, but one state is allowing it in all of USA. We see that as a positive. So when entering new markets, I would advise that always do the research as to which countries, which cities, which states are letting you enter positively as a policy. But sometimes as a policy, I have to identify key partners. For example, when entering a country like Saudi Arabia, we had to identify who would be our ground network partner. So for that, we identified the leading cosmetic distributor, as well as a company that services female grooming. And it took us almost 2 years to get the products registered over there. But today, we are strong with them 3 years and are still growing. So moving from policy, I would like to get into politics. This brand has been facing politics all across the world. Ayurveda, in layman's term, is still indigenous medicine. So many countries are using it. One of the medicines that are out there is traditional Chinese medicine. China, on a political level, is pushing traditional Chinese medicine to every country it has economic ties with. When I was studying in US, every student had at least heard about traditional Chinese medicine. It could be a Jackie Chan movie where somebody gets punched and then he's healed with traditional Chinese medicine. But nobody had ever heard about Ayurveda as a subject. So I was expecting more bureaucrats over here, so I was going to urge them that wherever and with all these international market ventures that we're going out and doing, we should also keep in mind that Indian brands should get a fast-track policy approval so that we can enter newer markets. Allopathic companies have been doing that with India for centuries. The second political challenge that we face is that of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, a neighbor and also a close ally, also claims Ayurveda originates from them. This leads to brand dilution. Something like this to relate to Apple and Samsung fighting over a screen. It's $1 billion lawsuit, but something like India and Sri Lanka claiming Ayurveda belongs to them cannot be fought because of various political reasons. So in the mind of the public, there's still a bit of confusion, but we still have to assess the impact. After the civil unrest in Sri Lanka, there is a steady 30% growth year on year of people traveling to Sri Lanka only to avail Ayurvedic services. So as an Indian citizen, I could also calculate this as loss to our nation. With all of this said, there is still demand for every brand, and Ayurveda is also in demand. And we would attribute one of that reasons to globalization, which would be my last subject. Unlike other brands, the most significant impact globalization has had on the subject is that of academic. People are now moving towards natural, herbal. And because of that, all across the world, medical anthropologists, historians, philosophers, even Sanskrit scholars are mushrooming up. The impact this is having on this brand is that they're putting money into research and development. they're putting money into documentation, which we are not doing in India, but across the world it's happening. So this is a positive impact that is happening due to globalization. But due to globalization, there's also a negative impact. People want information faster. Many of my other panelists have shared this. Google has information that anybody can put up. So this also creates problems because sometimes there's information which is not authenticated or not from the right sources. This creates myths. One of the most popular myths that this brand is facing is that every product that this brand has heavy metals in them. And everybody is averse towards heavy metals. So this is creating an issue. But what do we do as an organization to overcome such a myth? Education. That is the biggest way to tackle it. And as an organization, what we have done, we have taken information technology, created blogs, websites, online medical journals to put up the correct information through correct sources and make sure it is shared across a public domain. The third impact of globalization that we have seen is adaptation. Mr. Kakkar also touched this subject earlier. We have seen Ayurveda, a 5,000-year-old science, adapting so that it could survive. How are you seeing it? If you go to US, you may not see Ayurveda, but it's presented in form of nutraceuticals, rejuvenatives, cosmetics. This is adaptation of the brand. You may also consider it dilution, but for us, we are seeing it as a way to enter the market and in future, educate them and then bring it back to its core. With that, I would like to summarize the key takeaways that from this presentation. The first one being, grab the opportunities that are available to gain entry to the market, but still keep an eye open for an entry into the larger mind space. Secondly, spend time and resources into identifying the right partner. Thirdly, continuously educate about the brand so that clients get correct information about the same. And last, be adaptive to any market that you may want to enter, foreign or domestic. With that, I would like to conclude my presentation and I'm now open for questions.
See, India is, of course, one of the biggest destinations of people who come here for classical herbal treatments.
Right,
I mean, as you say, Sri Lanka and all these people are there. But I think a lot of the Thai massage technologies actually originate out of Ayurveda. So, like we say that Kalari Paithu is the origins of all martial arts.
Right.
In the world.
Right.
That was carried to China, it was carried to Japan, it went and became various things.
Right.
Why can't we turn around and say that Ayurveda, and prove it, was the oldest and the most scientific way of treatment, and that there are different countries have adapted different techniques of that
Right.
for themselves. Like Sri Lanka might have got some form of Ayurveda. But you can always sideline them on that basis.
Sure.
Thailand has got some form of Ayurveda, which is also their massage techniques.
Right.
And so do a lot of other countries around, in and out of wherever we are. But the origins of the technology, or whatever it might be, come from India. And we can actually track it, because being 5,000 years old is not just a statement.
Right.
They're actual written documents, they're proofs and things like that. And the other thing that you guys are not doing is very simple, is to actually go around the world and demonstrate in very simple ways what Ayurveda's discipline is all about. And one of them is Nadi, what do you call projections, which are
Right.
which are actually all about telling you what's wrong with you
Right.
in terms of your system. Now, all you have to do is take huge and expensive machines on one side, let them do a test on you,
Right.
and they come out with all kinds of reports.
Right.
And there's this little old man who sits there with his nadi in your hand, and he turns around and closes his eyes and tells you exactly the same thing that are wrong with you,
Right.
without having to go through, massive machinery and tests and God knows what else.
Right.
So these are not myths. These are actual facts. And though there are not too many people who are actually adept at what you call resolution like the Nadi discipline, there are enough people for us to actually travel with them and demonstrate that they are as good as the best machines in the world.
Right.
So these are things that actually dispel myths. These things are actually true.
Right.
Because I remember a friend of mine who was a very fit young mountaineer, and he was training for Everest. He went to the Dalai Lama's personal physician in where the place he's living in.
Right.
And as a lark, they said, let's go check what this guy is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So he had two techniques of deciphering what's wrong with you. One was a urine kind of a process, and one was your aura.
Right.
So he could actually read your aura and tell you what is wrong with you. And the other was the urine thing. So he did both of them on this young guy who thought he was invincible because he was 23 years old.
Right.
And he was very, very fit, and he was ready to climb Everest. So he thought, mere mein kya hoga? What could be wrong with me? And after this whole thing, he turned around and told him in some roundabout way that he had a hole in his heart. And he couldn't believe it. He said, bullshit. I'm fit as a fiddle. I've been doing all these camps and, nothing happened to me. So he says, you go back to Delhi, wherever you're going, and have yourself properly examined. He'd never been for a medical test, actually.
Wow.
So because he had told them that he had a hole in his heart, he got some worm in his head.
Right.
And he went back and went to the hospital and got himself actually tested. And he had a hole in his heart. Now, that was, to him, it was like miraculous. So how did this old man look at my urine and see the color of it and froth it up and smell it and tell me I had a hole in my heart? Now, that is where it all started.
Yeah, there are many such techniques.
This happened
Yeah.
about 11 to 10 years ago.
Wow.
Believe me, today, if you try and get an appointment with the Dalai Lama's personal physician,
It's not
it'll take you 6 months.
Wow. Yeah. There are many such techniques in Ayurveda, sir. There are doctors that just see your tongue, and through that they can detect various ailments in your body. So, being young, I'm still trying to figure out some kind of app which you can take a photo and send it across. so
You
people
guys
can
don't
diagnose
have the
it.
statistics. The problem with you all is
Yeah.
that when it has to be done scientifically, if you have to go to the West
Yeah.
and sell Ayurveda,
It's very
they
hard.
need facts. They don't need myths.
That's why we are, I would say, more excited when the Western world institutions are mushrooming up for academics, right? Because they would document it in a better way.
Not necessarily. See, the first thing you have to document is how many practitioners are there in India. First you have to put that on a database. Then you have to grade them
Right,
as to whether they're authentic or whether they're quacks.
right,
Because there are as many quacks as there are authentics.
for sure.
And
Right,
the quacks are far worse than the authentics because they actually spread the wrong word.
Right.
That this is a whole quack thing.
Right.
That there's nothing scientific about it.
right,
Then you have to turn around and find out all the institutions that are teaching it. Okay? Then you have to find out how many of those are authentic. And if you are going to be the leading, what you call propaganda in terms of commercials of who you are, if you don't have a directory which recommends or doesn't recommend, you don't have to say this chap is a quack. You just have to leave him out of the directory. So if you're not in the directory, you're not anybody. That
More-
if you
more
don't
or
have a
less-
directory
Yeah.
for everybody's use,
right,
then you're not doing your job,
right.
to be very honest.
More or less, we're still regulated with the Medical Council of India. So it is happening on a small level.
Listen, that's saying you're referring doctor malpractices to the Medical Council of India.
Yeah.
I mean, we are the biggest, most malpractice country in the world. I mean, the patient goes into the machine and comes out juiced out like a nimbu
Right,
because everybody has a piece of him.
yeah,
So that's rubbish.
right. No, I get your point. We definitely appreciate it. And just as a final point, we have been pioneers in promoting Ayurveda across the world, and we're hoping to do so, and definitely hope that it...
No, but the first
steps to the
exercise
next
you guys
level.
have to do is authenticate a directory,
Right.
which you all stand by. And say, okay, these are the original schools.
Right.
These are the methodologies.
Right.
These people are for real.
No, that's very good advice. I'll definitely take it back to the fraternity.
But what do you mean fraternity? Are you a cooperative or what are you?
You know, I mean, we are ourselves an organization, but we always need support from all the other competitors. I mean, we work together.
No, but who, in terms of recognizability, which institution in the Ayurveda facility has a more or less acceptance in the, forget about the fraternity, about the people who actually treat themselves. The Kerala is one of the well-known names because you guys have been around for donkey's years.
Right.
So I think it's a part of your duty to the community
Right.
to actually weed out the bad guys from the good guys.
No, yeah, that's what we need to take steps towards.
Yes.
Right. Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Comments? Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh.